report to Georgia's 40 soil and water conservation districts that are made up of 370 elected and appointed district supervisors across the state. And these local leaders as district supervisors provide cost share assistance and other work with private landowners to conserve natural resources. Our 2014 budget was $2.6 million, and that's a similar recommendation in the amended year budget. We do not have any changes recommended by the governor in the amended fiscal year 15 budget, and we certainly support the governor's recommendation. In fiscal year 2014, just a couple of things that we've accomplished. We've worked in 3 different areas of the state, helping agricultural producers meet water quality goals. We continue to maintain our agricultural water metering program with over 13,000 meters in the field. Work with the agricultural irrigators to do irrigation testing to make sure their systems are up to date. Continue to administer the state's erosion control program that certified or recertified over 8,000 people in the last fiscal year. In conjunction with our federal partner, NRCS, we conducted erosion control plan reviews on over 3,000 erosion control sites in the state and continue to manage several other urban issues related to the urban part of activity and economic activity in the state. We maintained 6 watershed dams in 2014, bringing our total dams to 124 that have been maintained, and continue to work to bring other part of our watershed dams up to meet safe dams criteria. 15 have been brought up to date, closing in fiscal year 2014. Our district sponsored educational events all across the state, reaching over 200,000 people. So as you can see, with a small staff of only 38 full-time employees, 29 of those being state full-time equivalents, we feel like we are working very hard for the people of the state. One thing I'll note regarding federal funding, the Soil and Water Conservation District's guide where federal farm bill funding goes in the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. In Georgia, in 2014, that was $21 million that went out on the ground to help agricultural producers. And since fiscal year 2010, it's totaled $103 million that have gone out to agricultural producers to do things that improve soil and water quality all across the state, predominantly in agricultural areas. And this is very critical money as far as addressing the needs and concerns expressed in the state water plan. And we cherish the role that we have in working with landowners to meet certainly the environmental goals that they have, but also the rules that they need to abide by and working day to day with them. It's our sincere belief that Georgians are better served by dealing with local folks like local conservation districts, and we cherish that role, as I said earlier, in doing that. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, the amended fiscal year 15 budget, there's no changes as far as recommended by the governor, and we support that recommendation, Madam Chair. That ends my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Real quick, I missed the number you were telling me about the agricultural property owners that you were helping and the amount of money that had been spent on that. Would you?
Yes, sir. In federal dollars, over $21 million was brought into the state in 2014. That's through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and that $21 million was spent on priorities set by local conservation districts.
So how many projects or?
I don't have that number in front of me. I'll be glad to get that to you, Representative. How many contracts that represents?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Towson. Yes, ma'am. Some of y'all are familiar with our previous CFO who is retired, Dan Gary. Our new CFO is Brenda Neal, so she'll be answering all the tough questions for us here. But do appreciate the opportunity to review our FY15 amended budget and request this group's support for the governor's recommended amended budget. For the new members, the Georgia Forestry Commission is your state forestry agency. Our vision is to ensure that Georgia maintains those healthy, sustainable forests, providing us with clean air, clean water, abundant forest products, not only for today, but for generations to come. And of course, coming along with that is a lot of jobs in forestry as well. forestry's big to Georgia, important to Georgia in any manner you want to look at it. Provides annually a $29 billion economic impact, provides jobs for 135,000 people in Georgia, and then on top of all that provides $39 billion annually in ecosystem services to our citizens. So forestry is important to Georgia. Our budget for FY15 starts on page 104. With Chairman Houston's approval, I'd like to hit just a couple of highlights in each of the program areas. There are no changes recommended in the budget, but to bring you up to speed from last year's presentations and hearings, under the Commission Administration program area, Chairwoman Houston, you had encouraged us to start the firefighters property program, which we did 2 years ago now. And that's a program to procure federal excess and surplus equipment. Well, in a 2-year period now, without adding any additional employees to manage that program, doing it in-house, GSC has now brought in $34 million worth of firefighting equipment to our county fire departments and the Forestry Commission. Under the Forest Management Program area, last year we talked about the emerald ash borer that has infested Georgia, and we established a quarantine in 4 counties last year on the movement of ash wood. This year, that borer has spread, and we've now expanded the quarantine on ash to 12 counties in Georgia. We can expect to see that borer expand across the state over time. So with the quarantine, we're doing everything we can to slow that expansion. But we will keep you updated on the status of that. Also, last year, this body passed a bill that authorized the Georgia Forestry Commission to enforce forestry and timber laws. That went into effect July 1st. Since that time, we've had 62 timber theft complaints. 41 of those have turned out to be criminal cases. 3 of those cases we have filed criminal charges, and to date we've recovered $25,000 for Georgia's forest landowners. Under the protection end, I did want to note and thank this body again for the pay parity adjustments that were implemented last year. If you'll remember, we had 3 studies done by Mercer, an independent contractor, the House Budget Office, and the Human Resources Administration, and it identified a need of $4.2 million to get us out of our pay parity hole. All of those studies found that we were woefully underfunded in our pay for our folks out there. And what was driving that was last year our resignation rate, retention rate with our firefighters and foresters doubled over the 5-year average. The 1.8 that was added last year did help slow down that meteoric rise in resignations of our folks. What it did from implementing that in July is stabilized it somewhat. Our resignation rates are still tremendously high, and we're seeing those continue to this date. On our tree seedling nursery program, I wanted to let you know that with our tree improvement program this past year, 3 of our families in our tree orchards were identified through the Tree Improvement Co-op as the fastest, best growing open pollinated coastal loblolly pine. So we've got the best in the country, and I think it's the best in the world with that. And those trees, those families are showing a 54% increase in volume production over natural seedlings. So huge value added to the forest landowner in the state here. With that, Madam Chair, I will end my presentation. Be glad to address any questions.
A little slow on that button. Commissioner, so you're saying that on the amended budget, y'all are happy with the governor's budget that they've laid out for y'all?
Yes, sir, and we request this body to approve and go along with those budget regs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for that informative report.
Thank you, ma'am.
Looking forward to working with you. Oh, gosh, we're just going along. Commissioner Blank, agriculture, and Fred is our chairman of agriculture. And answer questions now. Y'all like to come sit up here and say, and I don't maybe we just take it over. I might be going too fast for y'all. Commissioner Blank.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, and to all of you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. We appreciate y'all and have a little stewardship report for you to start. As we start on 15, reviewing the 15 amended budget is going to be we support it. It's pretty boring, I guess, if you get into it, because there's no changes. So yes, ma'am. And but what I thought I would do, Madam Chair, is Mr. Chairman, give y'all a stewardship report based upon what you did in 15 to help us, and how grateful we are. First, you gave us one of the more aggressive enhancement packages to start, if you will remember, our starting salaries for employees, because 4 years ago we started with about 630 employees. We have 520 today, and some of that is budget, some of it is just we have a better handle on actually what the needs are, and we're doing a better job of what you give us. We're pretty thin. Our skill positions, we can field a good team. Our bench is where we need to work. And a relief pitcher or two. So we're, if y'all pardon those examples, but it's kind of where we are, and hopefully when we get to 16, we'll talk a little more about that. But what you gave us is an enhancement to get starting salaries up on some of those key skill inspectors, starting from 26 to 31,000. I can report to you today that it has reduced it was slowed the speed of our revolving door. It's our attrition rate, or our backdoor loss when it comes to meat inspectors. When we reported to you last year, it was 37%. We were losing a third of our folks being hired by the feds or going somewhere else. And that's slowed. We've cut that in half. We're down to 18%, still a little too high, but we are getting a much better quality person to interview now, and that's thank you. It means a lot, and it means all the citizens, we all serve together. I think we want the best team. We still will, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman, we will not let up. Our goal is still to be the exceptional agency in state government. That starts with, with customer service, but it's also, we've got to have skill. We've got to have good folks, and we have a good team. We're getting better, and I thank y'all for helping us get there. We would, let me report, too, from a fiscal management standpoint, what we set out really about 3 years ago, focusing on the online services. And when we took the gate responsibilities, that helped. We had already begun the transition on online, but gate taught us a lot of, just from a technology standpoint, how to build a system so that we could be customer friendly, and people could, we could have kind of do away with as much of the paper as possible. We reported to you last year that we had, beginning January 1 of last year, all 70 of our licenses and reports that are required by law were in an online environment. After getting them all online and just completing 6 months of the last part of fiscal year 14, I can report to you today, and we're real thankful for this, is that we finished FY14 $1 million ahead of collections than the previous year. And it's all because our online system works, and it's because when the money is going to a Dropbox at SunTrust, and it's not sitting on a government desk for weeks. And so that's that's not new money. It's new money to the, it's just it's timely money, and it's cash flow, and it's just a better way to do it. We're not done. We'll have better performance than that this year, simply because there's more rapid adoption of the online environment, and we're seeing, you know, in some of our disciplines, over 90% adoption of using the online services, and with the gate card in particular, last year was around 85, if I remember correctly. But anyway, seeing progress there. And lastly, y'all helped us with Georgia Grown, and even though our business model is really not to rely on infusions of cash, but y'all saw fit to help a little bit on the advertisement side and some of our programs there. But I'm happy to report to you now, after 3 years of reintroduction of this program, we have almost 500 businesses and farms participating. A very heightened presence with Kroger. It is improving some other places. Representative Williams, we hope to have some outreach. You and I've talked about meeting with Home Depot, even on forest products. Met with the green industry last night, and I think we're going to see much more adoption with them, because everybody wants to buy from folks that grow and produce and process, and they're doing business here in Georgia. So, Madam Chair, that's my little stewardship report on 15, and what you've been able to give us. We hope we've been good stewards, and certainly just appreciate y'all's support.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Representative, Senator, he used to be representative. We call him. We trained him.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's exciting to hear the changes that's taking place in the department. You mentioned 90% adoption of the online services. How about the market bulletin? I know that was a struggle a few years ago, and you've got that publication back on its feet soundly, but what percentage of those, if you know this or can give me a ballpark, what percentage of those subscriptions are online? And what percentage of them go to out-of-state addresses, which means there are people interested in our products?
Sure. Yes, sir. Let me do the quick math. 5,000 out of 40,000 subscribers. That's your online subscribers. So that's, that's 1/8. That's where we are on that. The out-of-state subscribers.
Excuse me, I interrupted. 5,000 are online or still paper?
No, sir. No, sir. We have 40,000 subscribers. 5,000 of them, roughly, are online.
Oh, okay.
And I'll openly admit, when we started doing the online was available. Some of y'all may remember better than I do. 7, 8, 9 years ago, but it was a PDF, and it was not even active with regards to linkage on somebody's email. And we're trying. I'm not going to tell you we're pristine about that, but we have made better use. We charge. We wrestled 4 years ago with whether to charge an online subscription, and should it be the same. And we charge $5 for that. I'm not sure that if I had that to do over again, we'd probably do something different. Because it still costs we used to have 6, 7 people back there, and we've got 3 now. And so we're doing the same job with less people, but it's still, there's a fixed cost to putting the market bulletin out. And so we get some criticism. People say, well, in an online environment, everything ought to be free. Well, yeah, but who's going to write the articles? And then we get some advice from time to time and say, well, the best way to do this is we shouldn't have to pay for the market bulletin, but you ought to make those that are putting ads in, make them pay for the ad, because that's the way newspaper. Now, y'all want to talk about a revolution? There'll be a revolution if we would suggest that people since 1917 have been putting ads in this paper for free, and we ought to make them pay $1 or $2 to do that. That would. I'm going to let somebody else introduce that, if y'all don't mind.
What about out-of-state subscription?
Senator, I'll get that for you. And we double up on out-of-state. They're $20, but I'll get you that number. Does anybody? I tell you what to do. We may visit another minute. I'd
rather hear from Sydney than you anyway.
Yes, sir. Understood. Maybe we can text somebody and find that out before we leave today. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, always just the amazing work that the department's doing, particularly with Georgia Grown. I think that just as being a member and a producer, it's just, I still think we're just starting to go up with that. I mean, it's amazing. And now that we've given you a little bit of help with your advertising, I think the return has been amazing.
Yes.
But your department, I guess, is still dealing with the inspections on all the fuel pumps. And I was just curious. I know y'all have been sort of inundated at times with calls on that program. There are quite a few gas pumps around the state.
Yes,
but when gas is $2 like it is now, have you seen a decline in those calls coming in and complaints?
Well, if we went back and tracked it the last 90, 120 days, I don't know that I'd know. I know that annually our complaint, that complaint graph stays level at about 900 calls a year.
900 calls a year.
You know, where we have to go on site and actually inspect or take a notice. I'll tell you what, we all living in this social media environment, and it's, we had an interesting thing happen this fall, or late last summer. Lady went to a gas station on the coast, and she was there and took her cell phone out and videoed. There's a thing, there's a little valve in a pump that if it begins to leak, it will creep. It's called creeping, and even though the pump wasn't on, the price was running just a little bit. And of course, she videoed it, put it on YouTube, and put it on Facebook immediately. Well, within a couple of hours, we were trying to locate her, get to the pump, just try to assess what the situation was. And by the time we had several exchanges with my division director, he and I swapping emails, and then it took, if I remember right, about 90 minutes. He was able to inform me because someone else within our shop had seen it on Facebook. Our inspector had already been deployed and had already fixed it. Now, I'm sitting right here on the phone trying to manage something, you know, trying to get somebody to get out there. And they're saying, look, man, we took care of that 2 hours ago. So it's amazing. We're trying to, that resource was useful. I'm not saying all of those social interactions are not that complimentary, but
Well, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
yes, ma'am. That's good.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just real quick, Mr. Commissioner, did we have a Shark Tank contender? One of our Georgia's Grown win an award recently.
We did, Representative. That was an interesting thing too. It was last Sunday of the Georgia National Fair, which you'll hear from them, I guess, during the legislature too. Had a wonderful fair, second record highest fair ever, and things going real well down there. But we were able to get through the team down there, get Shark Tank to come, because there's a couple of ladies in Macon have a business called Hold Your Haunches, and if it'd be okay, I'd rather not talk about what that product is, if that's okay. I'll let it, y'all go to the website. But it's interesting. It's a body trimming apparatus, I guess. But anyway, they were recognized. The two ladies on Shark Tank had actually did the investing, and the business is going great. I understand they had $1.5 million of sales since Shark Tank, but we gave them a Georgia Grown Award and lured Shark Tank down. And so we actually last Friday night it aired, and even though it was just a split second, it was a great opportunity just to make the Georgia Grown logo impression for national. You know, hopefully there's some subliminal things that will come from that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for pointing it out. You got me interested in what the product was.
No, ma'am, I didn't point out anything. I'd like.
You don't need that. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the job you're doing, and we appreciate you coming. Thank you so much, and if the members of the House, this concludes our session, and we'll